Welcome back to the deep dive. It is so good to have you here with us.
It really is. Good to be here.
Usually when we start these, we come in hot. We're high energy, ready to dismantle some complex system or, look at the future of AI.
Or optimize our morning routines.
Exactly. We're usually in go mode. But
All right.
today we're doing something a little different.
We're changing the pace.
We really are. Today we're just taking a breath, a deliberate, long exhale. And I want to start by just acknowledging something that I think a lot of us feel. Maybe you listening right now, you feel this in your shoulders or maybe behind your eyes. It's that feeling of fatigue.
Hmm.
But I don't mean the, I stayed up too late watching a show kind of fatigue. And I don't mean the, I just ran a 5K fatigue, which can actually feel pretty good.
No, this is the heaviness.
The heaviness, that's the word. It's that deep, bone-weary exhaustion that comes from just trying. It's that specific moment in life, and I think we all hit it where trying harder just stops working.
And that is a terrifying moment for a lot of people, isn't it? It's the moment the formula breaks.
It really is, because you've done all the things right. You've read the books on habits. You've journaled. You've tried to regulate your nervous system. You've, quote unquote, done the work.
You have the whole toolkit.
The whole toolkit is in your back pocket. But there's still this tension, this low-grade hum of anxiety or heaviness that just won't lift. And usually when we hit that wall, when our toolkit fails us, what's the default reaction?
Oh, it's immediate. We blame ourselves. We blame the operator.
Every single time.
We think I must be lazy, or I'm just not disciplined enough.
If I just got up an hour earlier.
If I meditated for 20 minutes instead of 10, or if I just had a better mindset, this would all go away.
Mhm.
We assume the machine is fine and the driver is the problem.
But the source material we're unpacking today argues the exact opposite of that. It says, stop blaming the driver. This isn't a motivation problem. It isn't a discipline problem. It's what the text calls a structural misunderstanding.
That phrase, when I read it, structural misunderstanding,
Yeah.
it changed so much for me. It takes all the morality out of it.
It really does. So we're looking at a fascinating text today. It's titled, Living with Your Structure, Not Against It. And here's the kicker, and I need everyone to just stay with me on this. It uses astrology, but, and I need to be extremely clear here, it uses astrology in a way I have honestly never heard it used before.
It completely flips the script.
Yeah.
I think most people, even if they're, deeply skeptical, they know the pop culture version of astrology.
Sure. Horoscopes.
Right. You look at it to find out who you are, or maybe how to be better. I'm a Gemini, so I need to work on my focus. It's treated as a self-improvement tool.
It's additive, right? It's about adding skills or traits to your identity. How do I add more horsepower to my engine?
Precisely. But this source and this deep dive today, it frames astrology not as a ladder you're supposed to climb, but as a diagnostic tool for fatigue.
A diagnostic tool.
It's about using the birth chart to find out why you were tired. It's about using it as a map of relief, not a map of potential.
A map of relief. I love that phrase. So consider this your permission slip. We are not here to fix you today. We're not here to give you 3 more things to add to your to-do list. We are here to see if we can maybe find and stop the leak in your energy tank. We want this to be a place where you can just listen, relax, and maybe understand yourself a little bit better without that constant pressure to change. So get comfortable, maybe loosen your jaw a little bit. I know I'm clenching mine. And let's dive in.
Let's do it.
So, okay, let's start with this huge paradigm shift. Because if I'm being honest, when I think of astrology, my mind goes straight to horoscopes in the back of a magazine.
Of course.
It's all these generalized statements. Leos are confident, Scorpios are intense. It feels like a personality test, like Myers-Briggs, but with stars. It feels like it's supposed to tell me who am I supposed to be.
And how do I grow faster?
Right. How do I optimize my Leo-ness? How do I become the best, shiniest version of myself?
And the source makes a really crucial distinction right at the beginning. It says that most of us approach astrology and really any self-knowledge tool with those exact questions. We're obsessed with transformation.
Completely. We want to be the 2.0 version of ourselves.
We treat ourselves like software that needs a constant update.
Guilty as charged. I mean, isn't that the whole narrative of modern life? Constant growth. If you aren't growing, you're dying.
And growth is great. I mean, we are not anti-growth. But the source argues that astrology in its mechanical function wasn't originally meant to just be a ladder to climb. It answers a much more primal and honestly a much more painful question.
Okay.
The question isn't, how do I shine? The question is, why does life feel harder for me than it seems to feel for others.
Oof. Yeah, that hits. That hits really hard.
It's the comparison trap, but on an existential level.
Because we all have that friend, right? The one who just seems to glide through life.
Hmm.
Things just don't seem to stick to them the way they stick to us. Like
Yeah.
they lose a job and they're just like, oh, well, on to the next.
And they mean it.
They mean it. Whereas if I lose a job, I'm in a full-blown identity crisis for 6 months. Or they go through a breakup and they're dating again in 2 weeks. And I'm still, listening to sad songs in the dark. And we look at them and we wonder, what am I doing wrong?
Why is my skin so much thinner?
Yeah.
Or why is my battery life so much shorter? And that comparison creates this whole other layer of suffering.
A secondary layer.
Yeah. It's not just the difficulty of life itself, but the shame of finding it difficult.
So the shift here, the one the source is proposing, is moving from seeking transformation, becoming better, to seeking relief. Just understanding the mechanics of the difficulty.
Exactly. And to do that, the source introduces this incredible concept of the birth chart as a budget, or as you said earlier, a map of emotional cost.
I found this part so fascinating. A map of emotional cost. Unpack that for us. Because usually a map tells you where to go. This kind of map tells you what exactly.
Well, imagine your birth chart doesn't tell you how good you are, or how valuable you are, or how successful you'll be. Imagine it just tells you what certain things cost you.
Energetically.
Energetically. It shows where effort is required. It shows where vigilance became your normal state of being. It shows where emotional processing it taxes your system more than it might tax someone else's.
So it's like economics for the soul.
In a way, yes. It's an energy economy. Think about it like a household budget. You have a certain amount of income, which is your daily energy coming in. If you don't know your fixed costs, you spend your life overspending.
You're hemorrhaging money and you don't even know where it's going.
Exactly. You spend huge amounts of energy on things that you think should be cheap because you look around and they look cheap for other people.
Okay, give me an example of that. What's something that looks cheap for one person but is actually really expensive for another?
Okay, a great example is a loud, crowded networking event.
Oh, I'm already tired.
Right. So for a friend of yours who has a certain chart structure, maybe a lot of air signs, very social moon placement, that event might actually give them energy. It's a deposit into their account. They leave buzzing.
Right, they're totally pumped up.
But for you, based on your structure, maybe you have a sensitive water moon or a very private part of your chart is emphasized. That same event is a massive withdrawal. It might cost you $500 of your daily $1,000 budget.
But because I see my friend gaining energy, I assume it should be free for me too. I think this should be fun, this should be energizing.
Exactly. And if you treat it like a deposit because that's what normal people do, you end up in the red. You keep spending energy you don't have.
And what happens when you consistently overspend energetically?
You burn out. You get that deep exhaustion we talked about in the intro. You go bankrupt. And the worst part is you don't even know why. You just look at yourself and think, I'm weak. But you aren't weak. You just have higher overheads in that specific department.
This connects directly to that leak metaphor the source uses, doesn't it?
Precisely. The source argues, if you are constantly exhausted, it's probably not because you aren't pumping enough energy in. It's not that you need more coffee or more motivation or more high vibe practices.
It's not an income problem.
It's not an income problem. It's an expense problem. You have a leak. You are spending energy on things that you think should be free. But for your specific structure, they are incredibly expensive.
That is such a relieving thought, truly. It's not that I'm defective, it's that I'm paying a hidden bill I didn't even know I had.
Exactly. And so living with your structure simply means finding the leak and stopping it. It's not about rebuilding the whole boat from scratch. You don't have to become a different person. You just have to find the hole and plug it.
Okay, so let's find the hole. Because I think everyone listening is probably checking their spiritual bank accounts right now and realizing they are severely overdrawn.
Yep.
The source gets really specific here. It points to one major culprit for that baseline feeling of life is hard, and it's the moon.
The moon.
Now, in pop astrology, the moon is usually just your emotions, right? Like, I'm a Pisces moon, so I cry a lot. Or I'm an Aries moon, so I get mad fast. That kind of thing.
It's treated like a mood ring.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
A mood ring. But here, it's framed as something much more mechanical, much more foundational.
It is. This is where we had to get a little technical, but it's so worth it because this is the bedrock of the whole argument. The source identifies the moon as the core regulator.
The regulator.
It's not just feelings in a poetic abstract sense. It is the mechanism of emotional regulation itself. It is the specific place in your chart where that feeling of life is hard originates.
Why the moon specifically? Why not the sun, which is our ego, or Mars, which is our drive?
Because the moon represents your nervous system's baseline for safety. It represents the body. It represents the infant self. Before you had language, which is Mercury, before you had a social mask, the ascendant, before you had a career goal, the sun, you just had a body that needed to feel safe.
So it's the foundational operating system. It's like the BIOS on a computer. It loads before anything else.
That's a perfect analogy.
Okay.
Correct. And the source introduces a term here that I think is going to resonate with a lot of listeners, even if they know zero astrology: moon deficiency.
Moon deficiency. That sounds ominous. Is that like a vitamin deficiency?
It's a great way to think about it, actually, because if you lack vitamin D, your bones get weak.
Right.
If you have a moon deficiency, your baseline sense of safety gets weak. But the source is very, very careful to clarify this point.
What's the clarification?
This does not mean you were damaged. It doesn't mean you were broken. It means there was a missing experience, specifically an experience where safety was inconsistent.
Inconsistent safety. Can we dig into that a little more? Because I think when people hear safety, their minds jump to big, dramatic things. Was I in a war zone? Or did I have a terrible accident?
Right. And we are not necessarily talking about capital T trauma here. We aren't just talking about abuse or violence, though that certainly causes it. The inconsistency could be much more subtle.
Like what?
It could be that when you were small, the environment was just a little too chaotic. Maybe you moved houses 5 times in 3 years. Or maybe the emotional temperature in the home was just a little too cold. Or simply unpredictable.
Maybe a parent who is emotionally volatile. One minute they're happy and laughing, the next they're screaming, so you never knew what to expect.
Exactly. Or even a parent who is just absent, distracted. Maybe they were dealing with their own grief or financial stress and just weren't emotionally available. The infant learns a crucial lesson. I cannot rely on the environment to regulate me. I have to regulate myself.
And that self-regulation from such an early age, it has a cost.
A huge cost.
Yeah.
Because of that inconsistency, your nervous system, your moon had to compensate, had to work harder just to feel okay. It had to be on high alert.
And that compensation costs energy.
It costs enormous amounts of energy. Think about a computer again. If you have a moon deficiency, you are essentially running a background program, like a really intense antivirus scan that is eating up 40% of your RAM, 20 and 47.
Wow.
It's constantly scanning for danger. Even when you are just sitting on your couch watching a sitcom, even when you are asleep, your system never fully stands down.
So what does this actually look like in day-to-day life? Because I feel like a lot of people might be thinking, well, I had a pretty good childhood. I don't recall any major issues. But the list of symptoms the source gives is, well, it's delightfully specific and kind of rude in how accurate it is.
It really is. It calls out the hidden signs. So we're not talking about the person having a visible breakdown. We're talking about the person who is seemingly fine.
The high-functioning person.
Exactly. One sign is being functional but tired. You get everything done. You go to work, you feed the dog, you pay the bills, you remember your friend's birthday. But the cost of doing it is completely disproportionate. You feel like you just ran a marathon, but all you really did was answer emails and go to the grocery store?
That's that high cost of living metaphor again. The emotional inflation is just higher for you.
Another one the source lists is being emotionally capable but unable to rest. You can handle a crisis. You are the one everyone calls when things go wrong because you are so good at managing chaos.
Because you've been doing it your whole life.
You've been training for it.
Yeah.
But when you have a free Sunday afternoon, when there's nothing to do, you're climbing the walls, you feel this itchiness, you start inventing tasks just to have something to manage.
Oh, that one. That I can't relax feeling. The source has a line that says, understanding yourself intellectually but physically unable to relax. That is the story of modern life, isn't it?
It's the hallmark.
We have all the language. We know our attachment styles. We know our Enneagram types. We can recite our childhood wounds backward and forward. We could write a dissertation on our own psyche, but we still can't just sit on the couch and exhale.
That is the absolute hallmark of moon deficiency. The mind, the adult part of you, knows you are safe. It's saying, I am in my house, the door is locked, I have money in the bank. But the body, the moon, is keeping the receipts from the past. It's still paying the cost of that old vigilance. It doesn't believe the mind's reassurances.
It's being strong while secretly exhausted.
That's the one.
So if this is us, and I think for many of us it is, what do we do? Because the standard advice, the typical self-help advice is usually about discipline, right? Get control of your emotions. Stop being so sensitive. Build resilience. Just push through it.
And that is the absolute worst thing you could do for the moon. The source is remarkably firm on this point. You cannot discipline the moon. You cannot heal it by trying to be more mature or more rational. The moon is a primal, instinctual part of you. It's the inner infant, essentially.
Right.
Imagine a baby is crying. Can you lecture that baby into stopping? Can you sit it down and explain that its crying is irrational and needs to adopt a growth mindset?
No, that would be completely ridiculous and cruel. You have to hold it. You have to soothe it.
Exactly. So if discipline is the wrong tool, what's the right one?
What's the antidote?
Reduce pressure. The moon responds only to reduced pressure.
Reduce pressure. That sounds really nice, but it also sounds a little vague and maybe impossible for people with busy lives and jobs and kids. What does that actually look like operationally?
It starts with stopping the emotional self-judgment. That is the biggest pressure we apply to ourselves. When you feel that wave of anxiety or that sudden drop in energy, instead of saying, "What is wrong with me? I need to push through this. I need to fix this," you just say, "Okay, the cost is high right now."
Just acknowledging it, not judging it.
Just acknowledging the expense.
Yeah.
It also means allowing cycles. We are so obsessed with stability, with being the same productive robot every single day. But the moon is a cycle. It waxes and it wanes.
Right. It literally changes its shape in the sky every night. It's never the same 2 nights in a row.
And living with your moon means accepting that you will have days where you are full and bright high energy, social, capable. And you will have days where you are dark and quiet and need to retreat. And the key is not trying to force the dark days to be bright ones.
It's the difference between fighting the tide and just learning how to float on it.
Exactly. And when you start fighting the cycle, you stop that specific energy leak. You save all that energy you were spending on trying to be consistent, on trying to mask the dark days, and suddenly you have energy left over for your actual life.
I love that. Reduced pressure. I think I'm going to write that on a sticky note and put it on my computer. It feels like such a gentle way to treat yourself.
It's about kindness to the structure you have.
Okay, so let's move up a level in the structure. We've talked about the foundation, the moon, the body's safety system.
Right.
But most people, when they talk about astrology, they're not talking about their moon. They're talking about their sun sign. I'm a Leo. I'm a Scorpio. I'm a Capricorn. The source frames the sun very differently from the moon.
Yes. If the moon is the chassis and the suspension system of your car, the thing that absorbs the bumps, the structure that holds you, then the sun is the engine. It's your direction. It's your conscious identity. It represents meaning and purpose.
And we love meaning. We love purpose. Find your why. Right. That's the modern mantra.
We do.
Yeah.
But here is the trap, and this is where it gets really interesting. The source posits something powerful. Meaning does not equal ease.
Wait, say that again? Meaning does not equal ease.
You can be doing exactly what you were born to do. You can be living your sun sign's purpose to the letter. You can love your job, love your family, love your life's direction, and you can still be completely and utterly drained.
Because the engine is running just fine, but the chassis is broken, the tires are flat.
Precisely. The sun operates on top of the system. It assumes the underlying system works. But if that underlying structure, the moon, the nervous system, is strained or deficient, then expressing that beautiful, powerful sun becomes incredibly effortful.
This explains so much. This is why you see people who have made it, who are living their supposed dream. Maybe they're CEO or a successful artist or a parent who always wanted to be a parent, and they are miserable, or they're just exhausted all the time. And they blame themselves. They say, I have everything I ever wanted. Why am I so tired? I should just be grateful.
That guilt is so heavy. I'm living my dream. Why does it feel like a nightmare some days?
And the source says, blaming your sun sign, like saying, oh, I'm just a dramatic Leo, that's why I'm sad. That rarely solves the real suffering. Because the problem isn't the direction you're heading. The problem is the cost of the fuel. You're trying to drive a Ferrari on a bumpy dirt road with bad tires. The engine isn't the issue. The road and the suspension are the issue.
Okay, so we have the engine, which is the sun. We have the chassis, the moon. Yeah. Now let's talk about the body work, the paint job. The armor, the source talks about the ascendant.
I found this section so helpful because I've always heard the ascendant described as a mask. Like, it's the fake face you wear until people get to know the real you. It always felt a little duplicitous to me. But the source completely rejects that term mask.
It does. It calls the ascendant a coping posture. And I think that is such a more compassionate and accurate way to view it. A mask implies deception. It implies you're actively hiding something. A coping posture implies survival.
Survival.
The ascendant answers a very primal question that we all have to answer when we enter a new environment. How do I exist here without destabilizing myself?
How do I exist in this room without falling apart?
Right. So let's make this concrete with some examples. For some people, the answer to that question was, I will be competent. If I am useful, if I am efficient, if I handle all the details, I will be safe. That's a very Virgo or Capricorn ascendant vibe.
The responsible one, the one who always organizes the group chat and makes the dinner reservation.
Exactly. For others, the answer was, I will be polite. If I am nice, if I am charming, if I keep the peace, no one will get angry and no one will hurt me. That's a classic Libra ascendant.
Okay.
For others, still it was, I will be distant. An Aquarius ascendant. If I don't let you get too close, you can't hurt me. Or I will be intense, which is Scorpio. I will scare you before you have a chance to scare me. Or I will be strong, which is Aries. I'll just charge ahead.
It's the strategy you instinctively developed when you walked into the school cafeteria for the very first time, or when you walked into your parents' living room and could just sense the mood was off.
Yes, that's it exactly. And ideally, the ascendant is a gatekeeper. It's like a good receptionist. It handles the initial contact, it filters the world, and then it steps aside so the real you, the sun and moon, can come out and connect.
But that's not what happens for most of us, is it?
No. The problem is many of us get stuck and live permanently from our ascendant.
We get stuck in the posture.
We get stuck holding the shield up all day, every day. And do you have any idea how heavy a shield is?
It's gotta be exhausting, especially if you've been holding it up for 20 or 30 years.
If you walk around your own house holding a shield, you are going to be exhausted. This is the exhaustion of being put together. This is the cost of performance. The source warns that living permanently from your coping posture is one of the biggest and most insidious energy leaks there is.
I feel like this explains why social interaction can be so draining, even with people we genuinely like. If we're stuck in our ascendant, if we're always trying to be the competent one or the funny one or the nice one, we are working. We are on the clock.
We are performing safety. And living with your structure in this context means recognizing when that ascendant is overworking. It's noticing in the moment, oh, I'm doing the competent guy thing right now. I'm organizing everyone's dinner order.
Yeah.
But I'm actually with my best friends and I don't need to. They will still love me if I'm a little disorganized.
It's allowing yourself to put the shield down and rest.
And that's a huge permission.
It is, but it's also scary, right? Because the shield is there for a very real reason. It protected us at some point.
It is scary.
Yeah.
That's why we don't do it. But the relief you feel when you finally drop it, that's worth the fear.
And speaking of putting the shield down, that leads us perfectly into the next segment of the source, relationships. Because if there is anywhere our shield gets tested, it's in love. It's when we try to let other people in. The source talks about the descendant, Mercury, and Venus here, and it gets sticky.
It really does. Let's start with Mercury, because this ties back to that internal noise we were talking about earlier. Mercury is the mind. It's communication, thought, analysis.
Overthinking.
Overthinking. We often think of overthinking as a bad habit, don't we? We chastise ourselves for it. Why can't I just stop analyzing everything? Or sometimes we try to frame it as a positive, like curiosity. We just think through all the options.
Yeah.
But the source reframes overthinking as, wait for it, another safety strategy.
Thinking as safety?
Yes. Mercury shows how thought itself became a form of regulation. If you grew up in a chaotic or unpredictable environment, maybe your thinking was the only thing you could control. The logic becomes, if I can predict every possible outcome, if I can simulate every conversation before it happens, I won't be blindsided. I won't be hurt.
So the overthinking isn't a malfunction at all. It's a simulation engine that's running 10,000 scenarios a minute just to try and avoid pain.
Exactly. It's a protection mechanism. And once you realize that, you can stop the war with your own mind. You don't have to hate yourself for overthinking. You can just say, oh, thank you, Mercury. I see you're trying to keep me safe by predicting the future. But we're okay right now. You can take a break.
That's a different conversation.
It's a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
And when you respect the function, the source says the thinking softens naturally. You don't have to force it to stop. You just have to acknowledge what it's trying to do for you.
That is so much gentler than the usual advice, which is just stop overthinking or meditate until your mind is totally blank, which, by the way, never works.
Never.
Now let's talk about the descendant. This is the point in the chart that's directly opposite the ascendant. So if the ascendant is the shield you hold up, the descendant is what? The chink in the armor?
The source calls this where defenses fail.
Wow. That sounds incredibly vulnerable.
And this is why relationships are the hardest part of life for so many people.
Yeah.
Because true intimacy, real connection, it bypasses the ascendant. It has to. It goes right around the shield and enters through the back door. The descendant is the part of us that gets exposed in our closest relationships. It's where our coping strategies just stop working.
So you can't competence your way through a vulnerable moment with a partner.
You can't. You
Yeah.
can't politeness your way through deep intimacy or conflict.
And that feels dangerous to the system, doesn't it?
It feels incredibly dangerous. It triggers all the moon's old safety alarms. And this is where the source drops a huge truth bomb about compatibility, it says. Compatibility is not about shared values. It's not about liking the same movies or books. It is about nervous system resonance.
Nervous system resonance. That sounds
Hey.
both scientific and magical at the same time.
It's actually very biological. It just means, can my nervous system settle down and feel safe when I am near your nervous system? Or does being near you require me to constantly keep my shield up?
Wow.
If you are with someone who constantly, even subtly, activates your need to defend yourself, even if they are a good person, even if you love them on paper, even if they're perfect in every other way, you will be exhausted.
The dreaded relational fatigue.
Yes. And we usually blame ourselves for that too. We think, I should be more patient. I should be more open. They didn't mean it that way. No. Your body is telling you that the cost of this connection is too high. Living with your structure means choosing relationships your nervous system can actually tolerate.
So it's not about judging the other person as good or bad.
Not at all. It's about admitting, I cannot afford the energy cost of this dynamic.
I cannot afford the energy cost of this dynamic. That is a powerful sentence to say to yourself. It removes all the morality from it. It's not they are bad or I am bad. It's just this is too expensive for my budget.
Exactly. It's just economics.
Yeah.
You wouldn't buy a house you couldn't afford and then spend years blaming yourself for being broke. You don't buy the house.
And then there's Venus, the planet of love and romance. But the source corrects this a little bit too. It says Venus is not just romance, it is soothing.
Soothing. Comfort. It's how you come back to yourself after a hard day. It's what makes you feel safe and cherished. And when we misunderstand Venus, we tend to use our relationships as tools for regulation. We need the other person to soothe us because we don't know how to soothe ourselves.
Or the opposite happens. We feel shame about our needs.
Exactly. We think, I shouldn't need so much reassurance. I should be more independent. But if your Venus sign needs reassurance, maybe you have a Cancer Venus or a Taurus Venus, that is a part of your structure. That is what soothes you. Denying it is like denying that you need water to live.
So living with your structure here means creating safety without self-betrayal, without pretending you don't need the very thing that you need.
Exactly. If you need a lot of physical touch to feel safe, and you're in a relationship where that's not available, you are in a constant state of low-grade deprivation. You are leaking energy every day just trying to pretend you're fine. Acknowledging that need isn't being needy, it's being structural. It's like saying, my car runs on diesel, not regular gas. It's just a fact of your design.
This is really helping me see why fighting yourself is such a losing battle. You are literally fighting your own blueprints. You're trying to renovate the house without ever looking at the floor plan.
You're knocking down load-bearing walls.
Oh, yes. Okay, we have to talk about the heavy hitters, the planets that usually get a bad rap in astrology, Mars and Pluto, and those hard aspects in the chart. The source groups these under defense and intensity. Let's start with Mars. Mars is usually war, aggression, anger. It's the bad guy planet.
Right. And in polite society, we are taught to suppress Mars, especially women. Don't be angry. Don't be aggressive. Be nice.
So what happens when we suppress Mars? What happens when we shut down our own immune system?
Well, the source says Mars is protection. It is your immune system, but on a behavioral and psychological level. When you suppress it, the anger has to go somewhere. It turns inward.
And that's a huge energy leak.
A massive one. Depression is often described in psychology as anger turned inward. When you suppress your Mars, you get exhaustion and you get collapsed boundaries. You let people walk all over you, and then you spend all this energy managing the resentment that builds up.
So healthy anger is good.
Healthy anger is a boundary signal. That's the term the source uses. It's the red light on your dashboard saying, warning, something is wrong here. Living with your structure means allowing for healthy assertion. It's respecting your anger as crucial information, not as a moral failing. When you use your Mars effectively to set a boundary, to say, no, I can't do that, or please don't speak to me that way, you actually save energy in the long run because you aren't spending it on resentment or damage control later.
That makes so much sense. We think setting the boundary takes a lot of effort, but not setting it costs so much more. It's a proactive investment in your energy.
It is.
And what about Pluto? Pluto is always the scary one. Death, rebirth. The underworld. It sounds exhausting just saying the word.
Pluto is intense. There's no getting around that. But the source frames Pluto as control. And again, it asks the important question, why do we try to control things? Not because we're power-hungry maniacs. We control because at some point in our lives, safety was unreliable. Control is a reaction to a profound lack of safety.
So if you have a strong Pluto placement in your chart, or you just find yourself being a controlling person, micromanaging your partner, obsessing over details, checking your phone constantly, it's not because you're a bad person. It's because you are desperately trying to protect yourself from chaos.
Exactly. Control is protection. Now, it might be a maladaptive form of protection. It might be costing you your relationships. But understanding the why changes everything. The advice here is to handle your Pluto gently. Respect your own depth.
What does that mean, to respect your depth?
It means if you have a lot of Pluto in your chart, superficial environments are going to drain you. You cannot do small talk about the weather for 4 hours at a cocktail party and expect to feel good. It costs too much.
You need the deep end of the pool.
You do. And trying to force yourself to swim in the kiddie pool, pretending to be light and breezy when you were actually deep and intense, will just burn you out.
And finally, let's talk about the aspects, the squares, the oppositions. In astrology readings, these are usually presented as the bad news. Oh, you have Moon square Saturn, sorry about that. But the source has a different name for them. It calls them chronic effort zones.
I love this reframing so much. Hard aspects aren't bad luck. They simply represent areas where your internal system is working against itself. There's internal friction.
Give me an example.
Okay, let's take Moon Saturn, a classic hard one. Your need for comfort and nurturing, the moon, is in a constant, tense negotiation with your need for control or restriction, Saturn. That creates friction. A total push-pull, or Moon Uranus. Your need for safety is at odds with your need for freedom. Part of you wants to build a nest, the other part wants to blow it up and run away. This friction creates heat, and heat burns energy.
So if you have these aspects, you are just naturally working harder than someone else to exist in those areas of your life.
In those specific areas, yes. It's like having a chronic knee injury. Just walking across a room costs you more effort than it costs someone with healthy knees. The takeaway isn't to fix the aspect. You can't just delete these lines from your chart. The takeaway is to acknowledge the cost.
To budget for it.
To budget for it. To say, okay, I have Moon Pluto. Emotional intensity costs me more energy than it costs other people, so I probably cannot watch 3 horror movies in a row and expect to sleep well. Fatigue in these areas is not a sign of failure. It is feedback. It's your body saying, this particular task is expensive for us. Please reduce the demand.
Fatigue is not failure. It is feedback. I feel like we need to tattoo that on our foreheads. It just changes the whole relationship with being tired.
It makes it data, not a judgment.
This brings us to the synthesis of all of this. We've looked at the individual parts. Now let's look at the whole picture. The source says something that really stuck with me. Astrology does not erase pain, but it removes confusion.
And confusion is absolutely exhausting.
It is.
Think about how much energy you spend just wondering why you are the way you are. Why can't I just be more chill? Why do I overreact to everything? Why am I like this? That mental spinning, that self-interrogation is a massive energy leak.
It's another background program running.
It is. Yeah. But when you look at your chart and see, oh, I have a Moon-Uranus opposition, my nervous system is literally wired for alertness and sudden change. That is why I can't relax easily. Suddenly, the confusion just, it vanishes. You stop fighting the reality of who you are.
And when you stop fighting reality,
the effort decreases. And when the effort decreases, life becomes lighter. You aren't necessarily fixed. You still have the opposition. You still have the moon deficiency. But you are not adding that heavy secondary layer of suffering on top of it, which is the self-judgment and the confusion.
It's the difference between walking in the rain and walking in the rain while screaming at the sky for raining.
That's a perfect analogy. You're still going to get wet,
yeah,
but you aren't going to be exhausted from the screaming.
The source makes a really important point here as we get near the end, and it's about this idea of ease versus depth. Because I think some people, maybe the Pluto people listening, the intense ones, might worry that if they stop fighting, if they seek ease, they'll become shallow.
Yes.
They'll lose their edge. They'll become boring.
That is a very common fear, especially for creative or ambitious people. We equate struggle with depth. We have this romantic idea that if it doesn't hurt, it doesn't matter. We think great art has to come from great suffering.
The tortured artist.
The tortured artist trope. But the source argues, ease does not mean shallow. Ease means sustainable. You can't go deep if you're constantly burning out. You can't do your great work or love your people deeply or be truly present if you're always running on empty.
So ease is the foundation for depth.
Exactly. When you stop fighting your chart, you start fighting your life. And that is often the moment that life finally becomes livable. That's when you can actually go deeper because you have the resources to pull yourself back up.
Sustainable depth, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Not shallow ease, but deep, sustainable ease. Wow. Okay. We have covered a lot of ground today. From the moon as our tired inner infant, to the ascendant as our heavy shield, to the hidden energy costs of just existing. As we wrap up, I just want to take a moment to appreciate this concept of nervous system resonance and this whole idea of stopping the leak. It feels so much more doable than transform your entire life. It feels pleasant.
It is actionable. You don't have to change your core personality. You don't have to go on some expensive retreat. You just have to change your budget. You have to stop buying things you can't afford energetically.
So, for you, listening right now,
Yeah.
if you want to take one small step today after hearing all this, what should you do?
I was just identifying just one area we talked about.
Yeah.
Just one. Maybe it's your moon ep. Are you judging your need for rest today? Are you trying to force yourself to be productive when your body is screaming at you to stop?
Okay.
Maybe it's your ascendant. Are you holding up that heavy shield of competence with people who would love you even if you were a mess? Or maybe it's Mercury. Are you at war with your own mind? Pick one. And just for today, try to reduce the pressure in that one area. Just stop one leak and see what happens to your energy level.
Just one area. I think we can all do that. I want to leave you with a thought from the source that has been bouncing around in my head ever since I read it. We spend so much time looking at our fatigue as a sign of what we lack. We think, I lack stamina, I lack drive. But what if we flipped it? If your fatigue is actually just a bill for emotional costs you didn't know you were paying, what happens to your energy when you finally stop buying things you don't need?
That's the question.
Something to mull over. Thank you for diving deep with us today. I really hope this gave you a little bit of that relief we talked about at the beginning.
It was a real pleasure.
Take care of your nervous systems, everyone. We'll see you next time.